The S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, that's what we're discussing here on the day. Now, the market will be closed tomorrow, so don't shoot the messenger. But let's talk about what happened on the day. Now, when we look at SPY specifically here, you can still see we're holding that key support around 586, not 586. You have a few wicks below there, kind of a double bottom forming out here on the day. But still, nonetheless, you're at 586, that major level. And I told you yesterday, box it out because that's what you're looking at there overall. And if you look at this, you're like, okay, well, not that bad, right? And we look at ES specifically, S&P futures in line 59.29, our key level mentioned there. Next level after this is around 58.60. Okay, but you go to Nasdaq, and I think Nasdaq paints a little bit of an uglier picture. Now, granted, you're still holding above your Friday lows, but what I will say, the concern here is you're getting below that 50-day moving average, right? Which has been a little bit of a support. And if you go back, you can really see that we've held this level, basically, October all the way to when we mounted it in September, and it's kind of held this overall trend. So in the short term, this is a concern. We could see some more selling down towards 21,000, possibly 20,700, right? Those are some of the big levels we're really watching for here. Now, a few things to, just take a step back before we jump and go head first into being a bear, right? Number one, we expect selling. We expect bad action going into the end of the year, the last week especially, and into the first few days of January. Tax loss harvesting, the markets aren't really fully going, if you will. There's still people out on holiday. Believe it or not, this is still holiday season. From the 25th basically into the first full week of market open in January, which is around January 6th, 7th usually, the market's on holiday because, again, the market's closed tomorrow and half days, etc. So things you should be looking at, playing into your overall view here. So again, before I go down this trail of saying this, is we expect this type of trash action. And something that I gave you a for instance of, in yesterday's video, in case you didn't catch it, is, you go back in time, if only we could, right? And you go and look at what happened basically the beginning of this last year, okay? December, November were very hot last year, but guess what happened? Right here, this marks to when, right after Christmas, you kind of top out, which marked when we kind of topped out this past time, the 28th. We dipped basically into the first full week, which was around January 8th, I believe. And then the market found a bottom and went crazy back to the upside. We had a crazy run basically from all the way into February, kind of March, give or take. So overall, SPY, NASDAQ at major supports, not super concerned yet. Higher time frames, 4 hour, possibly rejecting at 586 to push on to 578. We'll talk more about that with the gap fill down there near 576 as well. Short term, downside seems likely. Now, before we go too far into the video, I want to do a special shout out to two things we're doing. One, giveaway. Number two, we're doing a sale for New Year's. Take advantage while you can. We're open probably some limited spots, so jump in if you want, if you didn't get into Black Friday. But number one, if you go to Twitter, you can enter into this if you are interested. I mention My Funded Futures here all the time, but I partner with My Funded Futures to give away some accounts to you guys. Just to let you know, all you got to do is go to my Twitter. The link should be down below. Just follow the 3 steps. I'll be picking a winner tonight because then you have to actually set everything up by basically, I think, tomorrow or tomorrow evening. So I'm going to be doing this all tonight. So go register while you can. Probably select it in your midnight, when the ball drops, dare I say. And then number 2, Discord, if you are interested. Now, what I want to say too with Discord is yes, I call out trades, things I'm liking. I go over my levels, everything like that. But to the other side of this, it's really to get you to the point where you can trade by yourself so you can eventually leave if you want. Right? Now, some people just like the community, which is cool, like having you guys around. But again, end of the day, this is what I love to see going into gains and losses really quick. I posted this a little bit earlier, but, I have a lot of guys that are just getting into futures now with smaller accounts. And guess what? Those guys are killing it, right? Way less risk. And this is what I really love to see, right? This is real profits now coming in on the day, things like that. So I like to see you guys now. Doc is scaling in from his top step into his My Funded Futures. And again, that's what it's all about for me. Yeah, people make money off of stocks you talk about, but this is not really just a signals channel. It's what you really make out of it, right? I want to make that very clear. Every day I go over my top watches on the Nasdaq, ES, etc., what I'm watching for there, the Dow, etc., right? We go over our top trades. Jay has his watch list. If you're ever interested in seeing, a specific stock that maybe we're missing out on, all you do is come into here. This is all, we have a tutorial for all this. You type in /search, type in Tesla, whatever your ticker is. let it load up. It'll actually pull our chart with all of our key levels on that stock as well. So you can see those in real time as we're looking at them and as we update them. Just so you know, there's tons more stuff. But again, take advantage of it while you can. 25% off, code NY25. Link will be down below as well. I'll probably post it on Twitter also. So yes, let's get back into it, what we're looking at here. Now, again, what have I been saying? Be patient, be patient. Again, you're not trying to get aggressive until that next week starts. Now, something, again, I did post on Twitter. Again, a lot of shout outs to Twitter today. If you're not following, I recommend doing so. Okay, a lot of people talk about going short on NVIDIA, and NVIDIA was a decent trade. If you went short, cool, you made like $2 a downside. Awesome, super. But understand, NVIDIA has a massive support, which I've called out here on Twitter. I said Tesla looks like the juicer to the downside, which we've talked a lot about Tesla. So it's number one, NVIDIA still sitting in that overall, it's like a 2-hour, 1-hour demand zone formed out here. It's going to be tough to get below. Understand that. Now, Tesla gets below its 2021, I think it's 2021 all-time highs. Well, guess what happens? We talked about this level, 415, 414.9, right? You break below, you drop down literally like $12. From highs on the day, you drop down from 427 down to 403, right? This is the only trade that I entered on the day. The only trade we even looked at. And me and Jay were working, like Siamese twins on this one, right? Again, when you're getting bad action, where you're not getting clear follow through to a specific direction, you have to be very careful with your trades, and I say this all the time. And Jay basically mentioned this one yesterday, and then he mentioned it today. If you hold below 414.5 on Tesla, I'm looking for $400, right? It posted at 8:30. When we started getting into it, it was around 10 o'clock. Literally almost 2 hours later, right? And then eventually you tank down, right? Point of the story, be patient, have an overall trade plan, and stick to the plan. You don't just go into it and say, okay, well, plan didn't work out today. I'm going to get crazy. I think, throw a dart at the wall. We're going to trade Microsoft, sure, right? Understand, especially with bad action, defend your money, defend your portfolio. You need to be thinking that way from a defensive point of view rather than from an aggressive point of view at all points in time. I think that's one of the biggest problems with people when it comes to trading is you're trying to make money as quick as possible and you get lost in everything that you're doing. So Tesla, again, also here on the 5-minute, look at that BRB. You break, you retest, and you shoot back down. Been mentioning this here for days. So again, what we're looking at there, NVIDIA, I actually think NVIDIA, as long as this holds this little zone here on the 1 hour, I think this is potentially a decent buying opportunity. You break below 132, you might start coming back down towards 128. That's the concern there. Yeah, 133, 132.9. That's what I'd be looking at overall there on NVIDIA, personally. Now, a lot of these other names, I don't want to, go deep down the trail here. AVGO below 232 could come into 228. Then possibly down towards 220. But again, I traded it once. I'm not looking to trade it again here. We traded it, made that money on the downside. But what I will say for now, I don't want to go into this market with a bias, especially towards the downside. And why? Even though today we saw downside, we saw some selling, right? You still chopped. You still couldn't break below your support. You get below your support here, and then you find buyers. What does that tell me in my opinion? That overall sellers aren't getting the follow through and aren't showing the same strength that buyers have shown over the past 2 months. Buyers, when they were breaking, they were getting continuation, right? That's what you really want to see is when you start to break these levels, you want to see overall volume move you in that direction. So the fact that we're seeing this going into the new year, it gives me a lot of, again, I keep saying it reminds me a lot of last year. That's what it does when I'm looking at this. So I still like how we're moving. I'm not really worried. I'm being a little bit patient here, but I do think you're setting up again for a potentially really good January. Now, if I'm looking from a dated point of view, and again, I don't always mention longer term positions, what would I be looking at here? I think NVIDIA is still an awesome play. I think Apple's maybe one of the better plays out there right now as you're looking at this coming back down to 250. I believe Apple's running towards 264 in the first quarter of this year. Personal opinion. Now, if we start breaking back below 247, maybe 247.5, cause for concern, maybe come down to the 200, the 50-day moving average. Maybe. But as of right now, I like where we're at still. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. And what I'd really be watching is this little previous level right there. Can you hold above 250, 250.8? A little zone. I'd mark it out there if I was you. I think Apple's one of the hotter plays. So dated positions make a lot of sense. People that missed out on Tesla. Everyone was saying, Tyler, we ran to 490. You know, we talked about going long here when you broke about this ascending triangle at 360, right? Everyone wants to go long on the way up, but when you're going down, no one's like thinking about when do I go long, things like that. You're getting those potential opportunities for in the money positions or just dated positions as well here, right? And it's what I was saying too. If you're very bullish on Tesla and you think that the Trump administration is going to really benefit Elon, which it probably will, right? You haven't even got to the start of that. That's something to be thinking about, okay? The only hiccup right now with me with the stock market, I've said it plenty of times, is Jerome Powell versus Donald Trump. And is that how we kind of have this? Is it going to be like, you know, Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield, a death match here? That's the concern. That is the only concern in the market for me right now. I don't fear of like a recession or any like collapse or anything like that. Those aren't on my radar. The only concern is Jerome Powell and the Fed versus Donald Trump, and how do they interact? If they have a peaceful and they can actually work together and it's positive, as when we look at that relationship, I think the market takes off. Powell has already reaffirmed basically everything Trump wants to hear. You need to understand that as well. Thinks this year could be as good as last year. Thinks the market is set up for one of its best years. Everyone he's talking to says this market looks like it wants to continue ripping. Again, Powell did not say anything positive over the past 2 years. You need to understand that. Okay. So again, my point of view, I think he's an unbiased, person here. So still really liking that. Okay. I do want to cover Bitcoin here. Bitcoin just sitting at your support, 93, 94K. Interesting, kind of weird. We'll see what happens. Shout out to Donnie in Discord. Donnie talked about this today, and it sucks because you're coming right into our target of 280. But again, this is like one of the biggest things that I love about Discord is the overall community, like, and what's happening there. But again, you can just search through Discord for MicroStrategy. But yeah, Donnie called this up like 50% for some of these guys in Discord trading it. Where'd you call it out, Donnie? Yeah, so Donnie mentioned it here at 9:07, 30 minutes of market open. Again, pushing down. I mentioned it in voice chat as well. But yeah, again, we talked about what was going to happen coming down to 280 as well, and that's what we were looking for. So again, Donnie mentioned this in Discord. We talked about it a lot as it lost those lows, pushing back down. One of the better trades. I think it has room down to 280 and then 270. That's what I'll be looking at there. And this can hit quick. Again, though, if you're shorting names like MicroStrategy, do not get greedy. If you get greedy with these names, you will lose money. You will lose money, right? It is very volatile. You will get scared of your position. Be careful. Those are the names I'm liking. What I'm looking at here, caution into next week. That's all I can say right now. Just have some caution into the next week. At that point, you look very solid, and I think we'll get a better viewpoint of the market and more healthy overall reactions. Right now, I expect some chops, potentially some downside, but I still like where we're at. I think we're in a very good position. I wouldn't be too concerned. I think the worst of this could possibly be behind us. That's what I'm looking at right now. Have a good one, traders. I'll see you tomorrow.